Alright, so this is a video blog. This is, however, not the something different that I said I was going to do on this channel, but a far more urgent and pressing matter. Recently, the lighting enthusiast community, which is probably encompasses most of you guys who have subscribed to my YouTube channel, has lost a very dedicated and devoted member, as well as he was on Lighting Gallery. Not only that, but the Asperger's syndrome community of those of us with Asperger's has also lost a shining star who had been doing exceptionally well for himself, exceptionally well, given what we with Asperger's face. And I have lost my best friend, closest friend I've ever had in my life. His name was Jeremiah Eugene Moore. On Lighting Gallery, he was known as J Frog. And I never, although I've made this little preheat playground set up in my room, or a lighting playground, so to speak, I never started collecting any of this stuff until I discovered Lighting Gallery. And Jeremiah lived in the Bay Area, like me, the California, San Francisco Bay Area, which allowed us a chance to meet up. And what were the odds? I mean, Daniel Klaus, the comic book artist, predicted that one of the things we'd see in the future is that there would be clubs for every single little obscure hobby out there of a lot of people who partake in those hobbies, and I guess it's sort of come true. I mean, we lighting enthusiasts, we have a hobby that most people don't even know exists. Quite frankly, we are up there along with people who like to make miniature sculptures of Abraham Lincoln entirely out of earwax as far as esoteric hobbies goes, and clubs for us. We'd probably consider along those lines, but we are a very tight and close-knit community, and Lighting Gallery has been like a family almost. We're almost family-like, the lighting enthusiasts of that community. So, I know most of you have felt this, but for me, it was far more than that. Jeremiah was not just another lighting collector. He was probably the best and closest friend that I've had in my entire life, from when we met in 2007 when I first joined up with Lighting Gallery, all the way until his death, and even in memory, I'll always carry that with me. I remember when we found out that he and I both lived in the Bay Area, we decided to meet up, and we immediately hit it off. He even gave me some tubes, a fluorescent tube to start out with my collection, which was a vintage Sylvania F30 T8 warm white with black end caps. It's in a preheat strip that those were made to run. F30 T12 lamps can be run on preheat or rapid start, but the T8 ones only like preheat fixtures, and so I have one for it. But that's another story. We hung out a lot, but in addition to, we like to go on our expeditions together, both to tour buildings. We both love the institutional aesthetic, and you can probably tell if you look at all the stuff in my room, it's sort of industrial looking. We both like that, and, you know, we both frequented a store in Berkeley known as Urban Ore. That's where we got a lot of our lighting stuff. But he was also loved to drive around and look for places to look for this stuff, and he was very adept at finding them. The garbage dump in the Santa Rosa area, where his parents lived, often sells some of their stuff that they get, and we've found plenty of cool stuff there. And We've also found a builder's resource in San Francisco, and most of you are familiar with the name Restore. I mean, I initially heard of them being in Southern California, but there's apparently one in Oakland. But Jeremiah was also, since we both have Asperger's syndrome, we got each other's weird little quirks. Something that I cannot say with most people. And we both shared a gross sense of humor. And I will warn you ahead of time that I might touch up on that, and so there might be some things in this video blog that are too much information. Some profanity, some sexually explicit stuff, potentially, and some gross humor, bodily function related humor. We both found that stuff funny, but you know, a lot of guys find toilet humor funny even in their adult years, and we were definitely no exception to that. I had a bizarre talent, and this is TMI advisory alert number 1. I showed him this bizarre talent that I have where I can spread my legs to make my farts super high pitched, and he always thought that that was hilarious. So I always liked to do that around him, and he'd laugh hysterically. He was never able to pull it off, but has tried. I know that may have been too much information, but we shared our gross sense of humor. And, I mean, my mind tends to loop on some strange things. I mean, I remember more recently, I think it was this year, where I went to a meeting and a guy sneezed and it went, "Whore mush." And I was like telling him about that and how I thought it sounded like something someone would say if they were riding a sled that was being pulled entirely by hookers and it was not going fast enough. And how I kept finding the concept hilarious, and then Jeremiah elaborated on that, saying that he could picture the whole scene complete with the sled driver wielding a bullwhip with a dildo on the end of it. So I often found myself thinking about that and giggling for quite some time after the fact, and trying to imitate that guy's sneeze quietly enough so that nobody would hear me, or they would just think that I was grunting, and then chuckling a little bit. We had a number of instances where we've been able to exchange jokes like that, and we got each other's humor. Again, both of those may have been too much information, but that was how we rolled. I don't know if I'll ever find another human being out there that I can share this type of weird, campy humor or disgusting humor with. So, and you know, the sad thing is that after he was gone, I was unable to do the thing where I made my farts super high pitched. And I tried several times and it didn't work. But again, probably too much information. Maybe that's representative. But I could talk to him about anything in my life. And no matter how unorthodox my perspective on things were, he would never judge me. Never. I mean, he had a very open mind. And one of the most non-judgmental people I've ever met in my entire life. He was a gentle, a kind, and a giving soul, and he's given me plenty of stuff. I've given him some stuff. I think I have one of the last bulbs that he ever gave me. This Style Tone warm white mercury vapor bulb, 100 watt. It's a Sylvania. It glows about the color of a warm white fluorescent tube, and there's not very many of these out there. But you know, I may have to fire this up on a YouTube video. And, you know, sometime in 2007, before I found Lighting Gallery, before I started in this hobby, and I'm thinking the circumstances surrounding Jeremiah's death, which I will get into later, had something to do with relationships. But in March of 2007, 7, a relationship where I fell madly in love with a woman that lasted a little over a year. To be exact, it was 1 year plus a year and 49 days. That's a little over a year. Crumbled, and I was devastated to the point where it was affecting me. I was crying uncontrollably in school. I had to ask the professor to retake the test later during office hours because I just couldn't do it. But I also had my Asperger's syndrome to fall back on, and that would also give me some extra time too. And I remember it was also affecting me so much that I was being an asshole and I was taking it out on everybody else around me. And by the way, if anybody watching this was ever at all a victim of those shenanigans, I am truly sorry. But that's beside the point. And I remember when it really got to the point where it was damn near unbearable, and I came pretty close to killing myself. I didn't want to talk about this publicly, but it's a reminder of how fragile life can be at any minute. I was about to kill myself one night, and eventually I felt something greater than me stop me from doing it. Something greater than me stopped me from doing it. And I still, to this day, don't know what it was, but I'm thankful that it did. And Jeremiah was kind enough to take me on several retreats to the ranch where his parents owned a farm in the Napa County area, and he's taken me on retreats there before to help clear my head. And since I was still going through the throes of all this, it really helped. I mean, I still thought about it from time to time, but being away from everything and playing around with light setups, we had light gardens. We had done all sorts of crazy little setups, set stuff up together. It really helped. And, I could talk to him about anything, and he loved animals. He was always good with animals. His farm had some animals on it, and he loved bugs. He's probably the only person I've ever met that didn't swat at flies that came nearby. In fact, while we were at his ranch once, there was a bucket full of rainwater and a drowning fly in there, and he decided to reach in there and save the fly. Eventually, he was able to get away. He was a very giving guy, very peaceful, mellow, happy guy. And I know that, this is something that I never would have seen coming, but there were maybe some warning signs. Now, as far as to what exactly happened, I don't know. Now, I will say this much, though. The media has sort of sensationalized this a little bit. And what had happened, it even made national news headlines of a naked man being shot and killed by a police officer after pointing a rifle at an officer's chest. That was him. Now, he had he's been at least a year and maybe longer in a relationship. He was gay with Jason. Jason was his boyfriend, and they both co-owned a house together. And they both had a lot in common. They both liked to rescue old electrical stuff. And Jason also picked up things like Victrolas, audio stuff, giant vacuum tubes, guns. All the guns in that house, as far as I know, belonged to Jason. And I'll get into that a little later. But, so case in point, I don't know for sure, but I think Jason was Jeremiah's first and only lover. And those first relationships, man, you totally fall hard for them. But, And I remember my first, that was not the woman that I had mentioned earlier. I did not fall completely head over heels in love with this woman, but still, after it was over, it took me longer than the relationship itself lasted to get over it, and I was in a funk. I was brooding on it for a long time, and so I know firsthand how hard closures of those first relationships can be. You meet them, you think that they're going to be the one. You found the one right away. In fact, I remember even going as far as to wonder, why did I have to find the one now and not have some time to fool around at first? But little did I know that wasn't going to last very long, that relationship. Anyways, Jason was for the most part a reasonable dude. I mean, I even witnessed some arguments between him and Jeremiah, and they were pretty reasonable. And here's the thing about couples fighting that all of you need to know. If you're going to be in a relationship, a squabble here and there is inevitable. No matter how good a match you are, the woman that I was madly in love with, that I'd mentioned almost killing myself over, or getting ready to kill myself and then something stopping me, let's pretend for a minute that she forgave me and we made it work and it saw its way into marriage. And this is a very big if, because the likelihood of that happening is I'm probably 5 times more likely to develop magical superpowers than that happened. But for hypothetical sake, assuming that happened, as much as I want to believe that it would be all sunshine and unicorn farts 100% of the time, that is absurd. It doesn't work like that. Some scuffles are inevitable. And although Jeremiah and Jason had a lot in common, like, the amount of things that they had in common was insane. I mean, as a straight man, I'll probably never find that much in common with a partner, ever. But having that many things in common, is that really that much of an asset? Jason was for the most part a reasonable dude. Both of them liked to garden. And they both kept animals. Although one red flag that stuck out like a sore thumb when I first met Jason was that he had a bit of a temper sometimes, and I saw him lose his temper with their dog on multiple occasions. Usually the dog's name was Snickers, and usually he got angry at Snickers a few times and threatened her once and took her into another room, and I heard smacking sounds on another occasion but didn't see what happened. Jeremiah just sort of quietly told me that dog abuse was going on, but he sounded like he was being playful about it, so I don't know if it was serious or not. Particularly whenever Snickers went up to the parrot's cage. The parrot was named Julio, and Jason loved Julio. He was pretty protective of Julio. That's usually why he threatened Snickers and got angry with Snickers for getting too close to Julio's cage. And there, among the other birds, there was also 2 parakeets, a chicken, and 2 ducklings. One news article claimed that all the birds were found beheaded and Snickers went missing and is still yet to be found. And as far as I know, Snickers does not have a collar. I don't remember seeing a collar on her when I was over there. So this was, we don't know, I don't know who killed the birds, but I then finally found on KTVU Fox 2's website, their local affiliate, Fox affiliate station, an interview with Jeremiah and Jason's neighbor explaining stuff, and it had basically decrypted something that I was long afraid of, and something that, you know, I was afraid might have been the case. Apparently, in the days, or maybe week or even weeks leading up to this, and all this happened in a short period of time, according to the neighbor, Jason was starting to act more and more erratic, talking about how about how him and Jeremiah were both gods. They were going to win the lottery and buy all the houses on the street and stuff like completely off the fucking blue. Pardon my French, but it was like, whoa, what's wrong with this guy? And it was later, the neighbor also said that Jeremiah's sister told him that Jason had schizophrenia. And at 2 a.m., before all this broke out, Jeremiah came over to the neighbor's house pounding on the door, and when the neighbor answered, Jeremiah frantically told him that Jason needs medication. And so he got medication from the neighbor. What the neighbor was doing with the medication is anyone's guess. And as Jeremiah left, the neighbor claimed that he heard Jeremiah tell his wife, the neighbor's wife, that he had some major life decisions to think about coming soon. And also, according to the neighbor, eventually at some point they just heard metal clanging, and a fight, and the neighbor went out to film. And next thing you know, Jeremiah was naked, and the two of them were both breaking. Jason allegedly, according to the neighbor, Jason told Jeremiah to burn the house down, and he complied and did it. Ignited things. And then the two of them like to restore vintage cars, mostly the old diesel Mercedes cars. But there was also an old Dodge there and a Dodge diesel-powered pickup truck. And these cars and trucks were their babies, but allegedly the two of them were breaking the windows in the cars and slashing the tires. And eventually police came. The neighbor called the cops, supposedly. I mean, I'm only paraphrasing this from memory, and what happened next was like Jeremiah was like suddenly like a madman, and allegedly, Jason owned 3 guns: a double-barreled shotgun that didn't work, allegedly, a Derringer pistol, and a small caliber hunting rifle. And I'm thinking the rifle was the one that Jeremiah pointed at the police officer. And so when it came down to it, cops showed up, and then Jeremiah was, while naked, pointed the rifle. It said a rifle, and I'm thinking it had to be that one because I don't remember any other rifles there. At one police officer's stomach, and another police officer had to shoot him right away. And the sad thing about that is when someone points a gun at a police officer, either that officer or another officer that's with them has to shoot the person. They has to take him down. So, and I'm thinking the neighbor in the interview also said that in the relationship, Jeremiah was the submissive one, that they both loved each other, that Jason was brilliant but had some self-esteem problems, and that Jeremiah, according to the neighbor, was a little insecure and needed Jason's love, but also, I guess, noticed some things were going very wrong. And I'm thinking that this could be a case because Jeremiah knows the laws very well and knows about consequences. I remember around when we first met, we both went to a hardware store in Berkeley, and a manager was a little bit rude with me suddenly out of the blue because I was too close to something that I didn't even, to a retail display that I didn't even know was the guy's desk, and was a bit of a dick about it, to be blunt. And I remember going, jerk, asshole, disguising insults and coughs, and Jeremiah was like, huh? And I said, oh, nothing. We later went outside, and I explained what was up, and then Jeremiah agreed that the manager was being an asshole. So Jeremiah was like saying that if it didn't count as assault, that he thought they saw a garbage can with spent fluorescent tubes in it, and that if it was not considered assault and battery and disproportionately more brutal than how the manager was, disproportionately more out of control, that he wanted to break some of those lamps over the manager's head, but obviously didn't do it because he didn't want to be taken in for assault and battery, and 2, it was disproportionately out of control compared to the rude behavior of the manager. And You know, as much as that may sound, Jeremiah is a very mellow, gentle, peaceful, loving, giving dude. And the things that I wanted to do with the manager that I said I wanted to do were significantly more violent than the things that Jeremiah said. But I'm not going to get into that for obvious reasons. And like him, I never ever would have acted on it, because there's a big line between things that you think and things that you actually do. I mean, most people have at some point in their lives came across someone that they just wanted to strangle. Most of them don't do it either because they know better. One, they don't want to go to the jail, but two, they also don't want to screw up life for the victim's family. And I cannot imagine the pain that Jeremiah's family must be feeling over this. So, but case in point, I'll get to that later. I'm thinking that this could very well be a case of suicide by cop. And because Jeremiah is a smart guy, and so is Jason. And somehow I can be pretty sure that Jeremiah knew that if he pointed a gun at a police officer, they would be forced to shoot him. And I've heard of people doing that before, also known as suicide by cop, in which someone will point either a real gun or a toy gun that looks real at a police officer in hopes that the police officer will shoot them. And I'm thinking that could be a case of that because, if the neighbor was right, how Jeremiah loved Jason and was dependent on his love, according to the neighbor, that very well may have tied into that equation. And maybe he just couldn't stand the thought of his relationship unraveling and watching everything burn down. Literally. And so, in the end, rather than let his relationship go, he'd rather let life go, maybe. And, as I mentioned before, I was so depressed over a woman that I fell hard in love with once that after she was gone, I was about to kill myself, but something stopped me from doing it. And so I know that feeling all too well. And especially when you're dealing with your first love, you don't think you're going to find anyone else, but guess what? You will eventually, and eventually you'll find people you feel even stronger about. I mean, I never thought I'd find the one that I fell madly in love with either. And even after that was over, after, something stopped me from doing it, from killing myself, made me not do it, I realized something. There was an ad campaign where the tagline was, live long enough to see the better. So I'm going to borrow that, and if any of you ever, if you're dealing with your first relationship about to crumble, and you got to let it go, live long enough to see the better. If you've lost someone you fell madly in love with, and you don't think you're going to find anyone else, you're probably wrong about that, so live long enough to see the better. And, also be aware of the warning signs. I mean, they said that Jason was a schizophrenic. I don't know if I'd mentioned this, but the only major red flags, Jason was for the most part reasonable, but occasionally there was only like a couple instances where I saw his temper flare up. And, those stuck out to me a little bit, but I didn't think much of him because he was mostly reasonable. But here's the part that really gets to me. A week or two ago, I had the urge to call Jeremiah to check on how he was doing, to tell him about my latest new finds, and to maybe schedule yet another trip to Urban Ore. And I looked forward to when we would have the next one, and now it'll never happen. I looked forward to showing him my new finds, and now that's never going to happen. But at the same time, I wonder if this was going on. I wonder if he could have told me about it, if I could have talked to him about it and given him some good advice, if I could have prevented this from happening. I still wonder now, and I only found out about this yesterday, if I could have saved him, if I just reached out to him. And I kind of regret now not listening to that urge and now he's gone and I can't. So I really don't know what else to make of that, but I would love to get in contact with his family. I don't have his parents' contact information. I met his mother once, his brother twice, and his sister 3 times. And I've never met his dad before, but I've found his dad on Facebook. I want to write him a message and to the whole family as well to let them know just what this was meant for me and what kind of a friend Jeremiah was. And also to express my deepest heartfelt sympathies into all of Jeremiah's family and friends. If you're watching this, I extend my deepest heartfelt condolences. I mean, there were several times between finding out and today where I just broke down crying uncontrollably, including while driving and while in a Safeway parking lot, a store parking lot. And last night I couldn't sleep. I was in bed trying to fall asleep, but eventually, after taking my contact lenses out and lying down, all I could do was cry a little more. It's still really, really hard to believe my best friend is gone. But, sorry. I'm trying to make the most of this and take it one day at a time. So next time, and, you know, I'd mentioned that both Jeremiah and I had Asperger's syndrome. I wanted to do a long confessional video blog on life with Asperger's and both in the past and now and things that I've dealt with and I am dealing with. And although some family members and friends were against it, thinking that it could bite me in the ass later, I think this has pushed me to the point where I want to do it, but we are more than 32 minutes in. I mean, I might have to split this video in half into 2 pieces to get it onto YouTube. So I'll save that for another time. And Jeremiah Eugene Moore. To Jeremiah, I love you, buddy. I fucking miss you. I miss you more than I can express in words. And I'm truly sorry that this has happened. And I wish I could have... A part of me wishes that I had listened to my urge to call you when I had the chance and wonders if maybe I could have saved you. And yeah, to all of you, you know, I still wonder to this... I mean, it's only been a day, but if I could have saved him, it really gets to me sometimes. And it's been affecting my mood. But, you know, I will try to do the best I can. And I will hopefully see if I can get in contact with Jeremiah's family and figure out if there's anything that I can do in light of all this. I don't know if a lesson can be learned from this. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know if there is a lesson to learn from this other than if you see the warning signs, do something. Maybe Jeremiah valued his relationship too much to get proper psychiatric help for Jason when he started going off the deep end. Maybe this whole thing could have been prevented. That's the part that really bugs me about all this. But I'm sure I'm probably just going to repeat myself if I go on any more about this. So I will conclude the entry on this note. When I link this or these videos on Facebook, I would appreciate it. One thing that I think would be nice is if any of the lighting gallery guys who knew Jeremiah or had the pleasure of meeting him or talking to him on the phone could record a video blog and put it on YouTube of sharing your experiences with him and what your friendship meant to you. And sorry, but I'm thinking if maybe if his family could see that, they'd feel it might ease their pain a little bit, and it might be a good way to celebrate his memory if we could all pull together and express what his friendship meant to us. All right, sorry for the waterworks. Again, we're now over 35 minutes, so I should probably stop the entry on this note, maybe split it into two sections. Anyways, thanks for watching.